authentication and payment should be best friends, but for some reason, they barely talk to each other. Most auth solutions stop at login and leave you hanging when it comes to managing access, usage limits, and billing logic, which is where the real complexity kicks in. Now, Stripe has done an incredible job making payment dead simple. Their API is a dream. Payment links. But if you're building a SaaS, payments are just the start. You still need to handle who get access, how much they can use, when to cut them off, and how to track it all. And that means wrangling webhooks, databases, and custom auth logic. Stuff that most devs don't want to deal with. Enter BetterOff, an SDK that finally bundles authentication and payment into one system. But there's one big gap. It doesn't handle usage-based billing, which is exactly where my solution, Usage Flow, comes in. In this video, I'm breaking down why auth and payment have been a mess, especially for AI dev who need usage-based billing, how BetterOff compare to my own solution, Usage Flow, and why I believe Supabase is the best position to solve this problem. And by seeing this comparison, you'll also learn how to actually implement usage-based payment the right way. By the end, you won't just understand how to integrate payment, set up webhooks, and manage user access. You'll also be able to tell AI exactly how to generate the code for you without breaking a sweat. Let's get into it. Stripe changed payment forever. With their developer-friendly SDK, they've made a huge improvement to how people have to deal with and handle payment. And this is great. And then now, we've been seeing a lot of solutions out there that help people integrate authentication, like Auth0. We've also seen solutions like Clerk that make it easy for people to also add login and more user management into the application. And Supabase has offered their own solution to implement authentication with their auth feature. And now BetterOff is trying to do the same thing. Well, they've been providing an easy way for people to add authentication to the app. Actually have a lot of different authentication services that you can add. And this is a great solution if you plan to add authentication to your app, but don't want to necessarily use Supabase in order to do that. Now, you can use BetterOff and use a different database service of your choice. You could be using MySQL, SQLite, PostgreSQL, and so on and so on. This is a very good solution if your intent is to use authentication, but not necessarily use Supabase. But if you're going to use Supabase, you might as well use their authentication system because it's really tightly coupled together. Now, authentication and payment are very tightly coupled together as well, but for some reason, they're often built separately. So you might have one application that allows you to do the authentication and a separate one like Stripe that make it easy for you to integrate with payment. But now BetterOff is actually offering a way to implement payment with authentication. And as they say here, the Stripe plugin integrates Stripe payment and subscription functionalities with BetterOff. Since payment and authentication are often tightly coupled, this plugin simplifies the integration of Stripe into your application, handling customer creation, subscription management, and webhook processing. So this is pretty great, right? They provide you an SDK to make it super easy for you to implement payment really quickly, where you can just copy and paste the code, and they give you instruction that allow you to get set up relatively quickly in order to do that. Now, you might wonder why I'm saying that this is necessary. Why is that a big thing, and why is that even an issue worth solving? Let me show you this diagram that I put together. So first of all, you need to understand the different type of payment that are out there. So when you usually go on the website, you might get the option to go freemium, where you can just get started for free and then pay later. Or you may have the option to pay for a free trial, or you may even have the option to pick between different payment share in order to sign up for the app and use it. Now, there's different ways people are actually doing that. One of the ways that people do that is by allowing people to sign up and then pay. For example, you'll go on a page, you have a sign up page where you enter your information, and right after that sign up, you're required to pay, in order to log in into the application. You sign up, credit card is required, and you must pay to use the app. Now, another solution is to let the user sign up and then pay later. Right? So you sign up, no credit card is required, but then you can pay only when you want to upgrade. And then you have the other solution where you pay first and then you sign up. So in both cases, credit card is required. On the first flow, you're sent to Stripe to do a checkout, and then your account is not created behind the scene and you have to sign up, right? So you move from filling up your information into the checkout page, and then they send you straight to the sign up where you have to enter your information, then sign up. And oftentimes they're using your email as the key to know that you've already made a payment. So they just check that you have an account created inside of Stripe. They can check that you've already made your payment, and then you are allowed to actually create your account in the application. Now, the other flow is they will allow you to go on Stripe to make a payment, and then it will create your account behind the scene. So the entire sign-up flow is done behind the scene using the information that you provided during billing. So they might just use your name, maybe your email, and then create your account behind the scene and redirect you to the signing page where you can just sign in and use the application. So these are the different flows that you can use when integrating with payment, right? So the problem now is that, as you can see, payment is very tightly coupled to authentication. Let me dive a little bit deeper into this explanation. So I was explaining earlier the first flow where you sign up, where no credit card is required. You go to a page like this one, then you're being sent to the dashboard, and then whenever you want, you click on the upgrade button and you upgrade. The payment gateway being Stripe. And if you decide to maybe downgrade your account or upgrade to a next plan, you can be sent to a Stripe billing portal, because Stripe actually offers a very easy way for your user to manage their payment. And that's called the Stripe billing portal. Super handy. Now, the other solution that I mentioned was when you are going to a website, looking at the pricing, then there's a free tier. You click get started, credit card is required. Maybe during the sign up flow, you might be requested to provide your credit card information, and you might not necessarily be charged. They are just creating your customer account on Stripe maybe, or even saving it somehow. You probably don't want them to save it locally, but they're creating your account, and then you go to the dashboard, and then when it's time for you to upgrade, it charges the card on file. So if it was stored on Stripe, it would just process the card and charge it. That's the other flow. So here it takes your information, but doesn't charge you right away, right? Because normally you have to deal with payment, but also you have to decide when you want to charge a customer. Because you can use Stripe to create a customer object, but not necessarily process the payment. And you have this other flow where you see a payment on the pricing page, and you decide to click subscribe right away, and the user is directly sent to a checkout page where they can enter the information and then create their account right after that. Once they've made the payment, they're redirected to the sign up page where they can enter the information, create their account, and finally access the dashboard, right? And from the dashboard, if they need to manage their account, they can access the Stripe billing portal. This flow right here is sometimes handled by a user themselves. Sometimes people might decide to have upgrade and plan cancellation inside of the application itself. And this is even more work, right? And this is something that a lot of people have to deal with because they're not aware that you can actually use a Stripe billing portal to handle that for you. Now, there's other things that you have to handle, right? You don't just have to handle, when the payment happened, how it happened. You also have to handle webhooks. And webhooks is technically just notification. It's Stripe sending you events to your webhook endpoint. That could be events such as when payments succeed. For example, it can send you an event such as payment succeeded or payment failed. And then in your backend, you have a conditional logic based on those events that would essentially just check what event happened and how to interact with your database. For example, a payment succeeds, you want to give access to a user, then you will update the as access attribute on the database to true, or if it failed, you might update it to false, and so on. Or if they subscribe to a specific plan, you might update it to that specific plan, and so on and so on. So you also have to manage this entire workflow of notification that happen between Stripe and your backend. And we are barely scratching the surface. Luckily for us, Stripe payment link make it quite simple to add basic payment to your site by just literally pasting a link. Someone can click on it and they will see a payment flow to process the payment. So you don't really have to deal with that part. You just go on Stripe, select the type of payment you're making, select the product, right? And then once you select the product, you put the price, select if it's going to be yearly or monthly, and then you have an easy to use page for processing the checkout. That flow, they make it pretty straightforward for you to integrate that. This is literally simplified by Stripe. But now you have to deal with what happened behind the scene with those events, with the notification, right? Because Stripe will send you those events. And then now, if we go even deeper, if you're building an application that uses AI, you might need to track usage for different tiers, because different plans will have different benefit, maybe different usage, maybe different limits, and you want to manage that somehow in your application. But the problem right now is that this process is completely separated from the authentication and the payment and so on. This is something that is left for you to handle. And I think that there could be a better way, because scope access manage what each plan have access to in your application based on the plan that they have on Stripe. And in order to check that, you not only need to sometimes check with Stripe, but sometimes you also need to go check on your database on what plan the user is, what do they have access to, if they have access to the application, when is the next payment, and if the trial has ended. Maybe someone just signed up for your application with a free trial and you're giving them access to all the features during the free trial, and then you want to know when the trial has ended in order to stop that and maybe downgrade their plans or downgrade their access so that they have access to less feature in the application. And you also have to deal with usage. Think about building an app like ChatGPT or another app that uses LLM where your usage is based on token. Think Cursor, Windsurf. Different plan will have different share. So the free plan might have 100 tokens. The paid plan might have 1,000 tokens. And then another enterprise plan might be unlimited. Who knows? Now, to check usage, you need to communicate back and forth with the database. You don't only need to update the usage when they use it, but you also need to check what's the current usage and what's the current limits. And also you need to know on what plan they even are in the first place in order to figure out what's the limit for that plan and so on. So these are all the things that you have to deal with when you are integrating payment. So if you're just focusing on authentication, you're going to miss this entire part: usage, limits, and plan management. And plan management is just the ability to allow the user to either upgrade or downgrade. There are a couple of things that Better Off is getting right. This is really exciting because they're trying to solve this challenge and they're aware that there is a problem. A lot of people out there are not even aware that there's a problem. On my Twitter the other day, I posted Better Off gets it. Stripe integration and Off are often entirely coupled. A database service like Supabase that also offer easy off is actually best positioned to solve this problem. This is a problem I've also tried to tackle with SaaS Subscription Helper, which is an open source project that I launched, and Usage Flow, which is another open source project that I've launched. But I think the best solution will be something that combines simple off setup with Supabase. And that will be the fastest way to build an app with subscription, including events, usage and limit. Events being tracking the events of the usage from the users. So I've analyzed and compared each of those solutions that I mentioned. Better Off solution versus the solution that I built versus Supabase. But before I do that, let me quickly show you what are the two solutions that I built. So Usage Flow is a combination of SaaS Subscription Helper, which is a tool that makes it super simple for you to add payment links to your app with Supabase. So if you're already using Supabase for your app and you want to add payment, it's a really quick and easy way to integrate in less than 5 minutes. All you have to provide is your Stripe API key, your Supabase URL, your Supabase key, And these here are optional. This is essentially the table to use for your users, the email field that you want to use, and the subscription field that you want to use. Totally optional. So you only need an inventory variable with this information, and you're pretty much set up. And then you have to add this thing that allow subscription helper to manage the webhooks for you. And behind the scene is going to take care of all the webhooks and communicate with your Supabase database in order to update specific fields. So obviously, because those specific fields are preset in advance, even though it allows you to modify it, it's a little bit opinionated, right? So it will allow you to manage subscription events such as create, update it, delete it, customer subscription events such as update it, delete it, and other payment events. So all of that is already written for you in the package itself. You don't have to deal with webhooks. You just have to add that to your app, and then the package will handle the webhooks for you. Now, there's additional features. For example, if you want to add a button on your page for the user to cancel a subscription, all you have to add in your app is this thing right here. It's an API call that will handle the subscription cancellation. If you want to allow the user to change or update their plan, all you have to do is adding this endpoint to your API. And if you want to have a simple way to get subscription detail, you just have to copy and add that. So this package makes it super easy for you to literally implement payment in less than 5 minutes. And I've done it, and then I've tried it myself to literally do it in less than 5 minutes. And then you end up with something like this. So there's a project called Subscription Helper Demo where you can see that live. If you just copy the project, run it on your local machine, it will install SaaS Subscription Helper for you, and you'll see how it works, right? You have the subscribe now button, you have a way to manage the subscription, and you have an easy way for you to switch between plans. And all you have to do is passing an inventory variable with the payment link ID or product ID, and it will allow the user to just switch between plans in your application. So all of these logics that you see here is done for you in this simple package right here. If you scroll down, there's more information on how to configure the field, all the fields are optionals, and then all the fields that are synced for you automatically behind the scene. And this is something that you can explicitly enable as well, and it will sync all of those fields in your database for you. So all those crazy logic that you have to handle is like, it's not something that you have to deal with anymore. And the reason I built this is because I've worked with Ticketmaster on the Universe app, and I've worked on payment on a lot of different companies. And I've realized that I'm always doing the same thing every single time I have to implement payment. It's essentially always the same thing over and over and over again. So why not just make it even simpler than what Stripe is offering and making the process like seamless, like where I don't even have to think about it every single time, because all of those requirements are literally almost always the same thing. And to make it even easier for you to implement that into your app, I even provide a way for you to just copy the SQL, copy and paste it in your Supabase SQL, and just run it to just update the field and prepare your database to be able to handle SaaS Subscription Helper. And with that, you should be set literally in just a few minutes. This is SaaS Subscription Helper. But now, I was talking early on about this huge problem here related to scope access and usage and limits, right? Because if you have a usage for different plans, you might also have limits for different plans. And this is where usage flow comes in. A usage flow actually integrates with SaaS Subscription Helper. So you can just add it as part of usage flow. A usage flow specifically focuses on usage, limits, and access. And you end up with a tool that allows you to easily integrate something like this, where, for example, you have different plans, and on each plan you have a certain credit. Each credit allows different user to use a certain number of tokens, for example, and then you can see how the plan handle all of that for you behind the scene. So you don't have to implement any of this logic. All you have to do is add usage flow, and all of that can work right from the get-go. Usage flow even come with a way for you to adjust user limit. Think about it this way. Imagine that you're building an application and then something went wrong. I don't know, something went wrong in your app, or for example, you have overbill a user, or for example, when you're using Cursor or Windsurf and you run a query, but the query failed, but you're still billing the user, and the user reach out and complain and say, hey, what's going on here? Like, I ran a query, it failed, but you still bill me for it. And you need to refund the user. How do you go about it right now? you will have to build it from scratch on your own and making sure that your application has to manage that. And what I did here, I built something that make it super easy for you to implement a tool that will handle adjustment and limit or adjustment usage for you, so that if, for example, you want to give additional limit to your user, you say, hey, guess what? Sorry about what happened. We've increased your limit to 1,500 instead of 1,000. Or if you want to give them additional usage within the current limit, you're right, you can do that with this thing as well. So, or even if you want to refund credit, let's say they've done 1,000 usage and you just want to refund about 500, you can do that with that and just refund the credits. And you can grant them additional bonus within the current limit that they have. So let's say they have 1,000 limit and you want to grant 500 bonus, you can do that with Usage Flow. Usage Flow take care of that for you. So you have better off solution that handle the authentication for you, but it doesn't handle access, usage, limits. It doesn't handle that for you, but it handle payment integration. So just adding a way for people to upgrade the plan and cancel the plan, and payment management essentially. So it handle payment integrations for you to add payment and a way for people to manage their plan, and webhooks. And then you have Usage Flow that doesn't handle authentication right now because it deferred to Superbase, where we expect you to have Superbase in order for it to work. Right now, it doesn't work with different databases. It only works if you have Superbase. So the authentication is done on the Superbase side, and then Usage Flow handle access, usage, limits, payment integration, webhooks, and plan management, because it also allows you to add, upgrade, and downgrade from scratch. And actually, to be fair, better off those kind of does it as well. So if we head over to the documentation, they do allow you to upgrade by monitoring the subscription upgrade. So you can copy that into the app, and it will help you with that. So we can grant them this thing. And then what I think will be the best solution is actually if Superbase builds a solution that will handle all of this. Because right now they're handling authentication. They allow you to do webhooks somehow with edge function, but they're not really doing it for you. But I think that if they were to build a solution that do access, usage, limits, payment integration, and webhooks, that will be just amazing, because then you can skip all of this. It's just part of your database. And now you'll have a solution where payment and database are tightly coupled together. So now you might wonder, how does webhook works behind the scene, right? This is one thing that I think is right up the alley of Superbase. Again, webhook are just notification and events. There's something that come like this. So you get like an event called payment intent succeeded. And then you decide what to do based on what events comes in, right? And so think about it like notification. So when you have your phone, for example, and Stripe is sending you a message saying, hey, payment succeeded. What do you want to do about it? Payment failed. What do you want to do about it? But instead of sending that to your phone, it's sending that to your application, and it's letting your application decide what to do about it. And there are a ton of events that Stripe can send you. These are just some of those events that it's sending you. And they build a CLI that you can install in your environment that allow you to test all of those events on your local development machine really easily. So this is why you have to install a CLI and set up webhook on Stripe in order for it to work. To set up webhook is pretty simple. You have to go on Stripe. You have to go over developer, click on webhooks, and then click create an event destination. And then you have access to Stripe. And then here you have to select the different event that you want to track. So you can, for example, track for payment succeeded and add all the event that you wanted to track. And once you have that, you're pretty much set up to track a few events. So let me add one of these. Some people just do select all events. This is one thing that Superbase, for example, recommend when you're doing an edge function, because they can then just handle the rest. And then you can add the endpoint. And this will be the endpoint on your application. And that endpoint could be, for example, gitglance.co webhooks. And this is where all those events from Stripe are going to be sent to your application, and for your application to handle what happened once those events comes in. This is why you have webhook here. So Stripe sends those events, and from those events, you decide what to do with the conditional logic that you send to Superbase. This is pretty much it, right? This is a workflow that I think will be super easy for Superbase to implement. And I'm really hoping that they actually, saw this tweet and started thinking about it and say, oh, you know what? That might be an avenue for us to add this feature. Because I think that they are really well positioned to add something like that, right? And they will be great. Now, other things that you have to do in your application is managing customers and managing, sometimes you want to track the current plan of your user and stuff like that. Those are simple queries that you can use with Stripe API. In usage flow, actually, this isn't implemented. If you want to get information about your customer, there's already like logic for it inside of usage flow as well, because I want to make it super easy for you to get the basics. And as you can see, usage flow is super easy. For example, if you increase the usage of a user for a specific feature, all you have to do is pass the name of the feature, how many credits is being used, and just copy and paste that wherever you want to increase the usage for that specific feature. And here's an example for if you were using models, like AI models, and you want to track usage for your AI models. And then if you wanted to fetch the usage, you can just use one of these. And if you wanted to check the stats, right? What's the current, usage stat of that user? What's the total usage, max, min, and so on. So this makes it super easy for you to implement payment, usage, limit, access into your application. This is already working. This is still a work in progress because I want to make it into a very useful documentation that you can actually add to your application really easily, and even maybe provide a cloud service and maybe even provide a cloud service so that it's super easy for you to track everything from a panel where it becomes even simpler for you to integrate, where you can just head over the usage flow cloud, pass the payment link, and then voila, you can set up all your configuration for your limits, for the plans, and you can just interact with the usage flow cloud in order to, get statistics about your usage and so on. So I'm trying to find a solution to make it a lot simpler, and I'm going to keep working on this. If Superbase ends up building a good solution, if it's good enough, maybe I'll stop, but I'll continue working on this in the meantime. If you're interested about payment, I've actually made an entire guide that makes it super simple for you to add payment into your application. And this is called the Effortless Payment Integration, a complete step-by-step guide, where I walk you through every single steps that you need in order to add payment into your application with payment links from Stripe. This is the easiest way by far that I found to add payment into your application. So I break it down for you, and this thing got a really good reviews. So if you haven't implemented payment to your application and you want to find out how to do it, make sure to check this out. I'll put a link in the description below. And then if you want to get deeper and, for example, figure out what kind of pricing strategy you should have or use for your site, then I recommend you guys to check out the AI Founders Club on School and join the academy, where you get access to courses like this one, which is the SaaS pricing course, where I break down exactly all the strategy that you can use for figuring out how to price your products or your SaaS or your app pretty easily. And there are a ton of resources available in the community. There's a beginner guide to SaaS. There's a SaaS validation course if you want to figure out how to validate your idea. There's a SaaS prototyping course. There's a SaaS pricing course, which is the one I just mentioned. I've just added a fundraising masterclass that gives you access to investor database. And there's a prompt to prompt course where you get access to some of the prompt that I've used to build versus a different product. I've also added a prompt to product live, where you can see me building a product live with my entire workflow and process, where you learn exactly how it's done. And there are additional resources like the Academy Startup Directory, where you can see startup from people in the community, like the Startup Tool Directory, where you have access to every single tool recommended within the community that are helpful for your startup, your AI app, and so on. And also you get a behind the scene look at some of the startups that I've been building. And it's a complete behind the scene look where I break down everything from prototype, customer avatar profile, competition, how I got the idea, revenue, and so on and so on, right? So this app is not even launched yet, and I've already started breaking down everything for you there. You also get access to the done for you analyzer, which will analyze your offer And so you just go on the page, you can just put the offer from your website, it will analyze it and give you feedback on how to improve it. You also get access to the SaaS Idea Generator, which is a directory of idea where you can also generate ideas based on some of the top incubator and some of the top fund in Silicon Valley. We have debug prompt, which make it super easy for you to debug your code when you are using tools like Cursor and so on. And you also have access to this tool and resource page, which has like tons of tools and resources that you can use in order to build your application. And this is a very complete guide. So if you guys want to join, make sure to check out AI Founders Club and join the community. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe and check one of the videos right here. And I see you guys in the next one.